without further ado, let me introduce the speakers. First off, we have Annie Matthews. She is a CIO of Mother Dairy Fruit and Vegetables. She has been with Mother Dairy for over 15 years, and her entire career spans over 25 years. She has experience in diverse domains and has worked in organizations such as NOCIL, Bharat Shell, Datacom Systems, Fonterra, and Zenocom. In her current role, she is responsible for defining and executing the IT strategy for Mother Dairy and is passionate about utilizing technology to create market differentiation and enhance consumer engagement. Our next speaker, Mr. Sachin Gupta, he handles multiple roles within Usha International. He is the President and Chief Information, Innovation, and Digitization Officer of the consumer electronics giant. He has over 32 years of total work experience in information technology, strategy, and as well as hotel and restaurant management. His current focus areas are defining and implementing IT strategy and digital transformation across the value chain. And last but certainly not the least, we have Prachur Shah. He is currently the Director of New Ventures at Vedanta Limited. He has been with the company since August 2018 and is responsible for unlocking value through the 51 blocks that Vedanta have acquired in the OALP regime. Prior to Kane, he spent around 19 years with Schlumberger, working in different geographies, including Houston, Brazil, France, UAE, and India. He has vast experience in operations, line management, HR, marketing, and transformation. So I'll begin with you, Prachur. So Vedanta's goal, I heard, is to produce 50% of India's crude oil. During this crisis, how did your company put in measures and controls across functions and locations in terms of, say, protecting human resources and product and service supply chains? Can you just walk us through that?
See, to be honest, it's quite an unprecedented situation to be in, right? And first and foremost, of course, the human safety is the factor, right? So, of course, this pandemic took us all by surprise, and it did impact our business because we are very heavily dependent on human resource and the product and supply chain, because a lot of our supply chain is not currently residing in India. So there was an impact. However, I think there was a lot of heavy lifting done, to be honest, because of a lack of proper solution in terms of making sure first to protect the human resources on ground, which are actually at the site involved in the operations producing oil and gas, right? It's a very site-based operation. So there was a lot of rigor done to ensure all the precautions. And of course, like everybody else, there was clear participation as far as contact tracing and making sure that the people went home safe. And I'm very glad to say that actually the team did a great job. We managed to maintain, if not increase, maintain the production. Of course, the CapEx programs took a hit because the supply chain took a hit. A lot of our equipment comes from Italy and the Schengen area. So it did take an impact. However, the business continued and it's going strong still. So, but there was a lack of solution because nobody was ready for it. And it developed over the last few months to actually make it more industrialized. And I think we'll all learn from this to make it even more industrialized because there is still a long way to go, right? And the battle is not over. As far as the supply chain is concerned, I think slowly, even the supply chain has recovered quite a bit because they've learned how to mix it. We've got shipments from Italy and the other parts of the world now. So it's recovering now. But it did take us all by surprise. But the commitment towards keeping the energy demands of the country, it did. Vedanta is continuing to produce, and we're still producing close to 160,000 barrels a day.
Annie, it's you deal with a whole other segment. You deal with FMCG, and considering that you deal with goods that are very much essential and that everybody uses it on a daily basis, vegetables and milk. So how different did you guys tackle the whole situation? Can you just give us an overview?
Yeah, thanks for that. First of all, congratulations to all the award winners. Business transformation.
And in fact, Prachur just won an award. Congrats him too.
Yeah, congratulations, Prachur. Good going there. I think especially business transformation, people do a lot of technology awards, but unless the technology results in a business transformation, the awards kind of are pointless. So it's great to have these awards. And coming back to the question of what was Mother Dairy doing during the COVID-19 situation kind of thing, I think we actually, if you ask me, the Mother Dairy employee mindset itself is geared towards ensuring critical supply chain, right? Resilience is built into our psyche, into our processes, into the way we operate. I think every time, I mean, when look at it, when the country sleeps is when our active supply chain is working. Our logistics operations peak time is during the night hours. And hence, from a systems, I mean, even if you look at it during national holidays, we need to be up and running. We need to ensure delivery. Even an event like the JAT agitation was a trigger for us to set up route optimization systems to ensure that at any point in time, our delivery efficiencies are not compromised. So even the lockdown, the pandemic lockdown has been a learning and an opportunity on how to streamline things. So from a human resources and a product perspective, I don't think we had much challenges. Definitely our offices where shutdown employees work from home, and most of IT focus was initially on ensuring IT service assurance, right? That the employees had a seamless experience of working from home, and they had the service assurance required to work with IT systems. As an organization, then our primary focus was on ensuring that the supply chain was seamless. There were a lot of containment zones, so hotspots created. So we had to ensure supply to them. Consumers reached out to us, RWS reached out to us. We went out of our way to ensure supply of essential commodities to them. We, I think, opened around 50 kiosks in that duration. We created a small HR chatbot for employees so that employees, if they had any lockdown related questions, that could get answered. We had already had a lot of apps for our business partners in the B2B space. We altered them for our RWAs, so RWA could have a Spock who could do orders through that, and then we could deliver it directly to the RWAs kind of thing. So we used this opportunity to do few of the quick and small kind of applications, not really anything big change, but wherever we thought something could add value and we could facilitate it.
So Sachin, we were just discussing about what were the first few responses that you guys had to the COVID-19. And Sachin, how did you handle your human resources, products and service supply chain? And also some reports recently said that there was a surge in demand for white goods. So how did things go for Usha? Yours is slightly different from what Annie faced because her goods were in demand during COVID. And your requirements have come in right after the COVID scenario. Now I guess is when your business should be booming like crazy.
So I started with Usha in September, started with the strategy, trying to figure out things, and then COVID happened, right, in March. So for us, COVID was actually, now when I say us, I'm talking about IT. It was a good thing to happen in a way that certain technologies that were now being used, and I've talked about it recently as well, got up and running. Collaboration technologies enabled people to work together remotely, right? We were trying for 2 months, trying to get into hurdles with people, trying to learn to use the technologies. We were not prepared. We didn't know this was. I don't think anybody was prepared. We didn't know anybody knew that this was going to happen. So we quickly, on 21st, 22nd. All of a sudden, thankfully, we had the technologies involved in the laptops and computers, and when it happened, within 48 hours, we had 100% of the company working remotely. Right? So, all of a sudden, that people who could not figure out how to use technology figured it out, was there, and everything was working. And then we saw a complete shutdown. So shops were shut down for us, our dealers and distributors were shut down. So April was a March, 10 days of March, and April was a complete loss for us. So our factories were shut down, business was shut down. We were working on various things in the head office and so on and so forth. But with location offices were shut down. So there wasn't a prep. Our prep. So unlike probably Annie, who was running the business, we didn't have any sales. Like any of the, because we're not truly able to, we were quite good. Then our business, our work started, true work started in locations as the location started opening up, as we started getting permissions. So one of the biggest challenges when you talk about HR was how to get warehouses open, location offices open, and get the work going. Our bigger problem was our call center, how to get call center up and running. We never ever thought that we'd have to have call center people working from home.
Now let's talk a little bit about resilience. Now, returning businesses to their operational states after shutdown will be extremely challenging, and as you know, a careful amount of time will be needed by the CIOs and CEOs to reimagine and re-strategize organizational IT and digital architectures. So let me start with Annie for this. So Annie, can you just talk about how are you building a new age architecture for future needs, especially in terms of resilience?
I don't think we have started re-architecting anything significantly at this point in time. We are lucky that we are continuing the journeys which we had already started before the whole lockdown situation hit us. So I mean, I think hopefully the future will be very different, because a lot of these digital initiatives, when you pick them up, you don't know how it is going to go forward, right? Yes. However, we see that the lockdown has given us an opportunity. Work from home means people are more amenable to working in a digital mode. Paper is a pariah. I don't think anyone is accepting any documents anymore. Self-preservation instincts have kicked in very strongly. And hence we find that a lot more acceptance of a paperless way of working is coming into picture. So possibly if we had been talking of this 4-5 months back, we would have struggled with it. Today, I mean, earlier, 4 months back, we used to run after business users with digitalization projects and with ideations. Today, the users are talking to us. They want us to deploy more of those solutions. So if I bucket it into 3 areas, right, which is where we are focused on. One is governance, internal governance. One is supply chain. And the third one is consumer facing, right? So today, and since a few months now, we have been focusing on the governance related and the supply chain enablement initiatives, making mobility a way of life. We identified 2 platforms, one SharePoint Online for all our internal workflows, and a third-party proprietary platform where we are putting all our B2B part, all the supply chain related vehicle tracking, retailer app, or any kind of digital PODs and all. Everything is going into these platforms. So compared to 3 months ago, now we find much more acceptance, much more of a pull from the users. So that has really helped us.
So sounds like you're collecting a lot of data. In our next segment, we'll come to how you are utilizing that data to gather actionable insights. Are you using automation in any manner in your companies?
See, we have done a few pilots with automation. We are in the process of setting up. So if you mean by automation, RPA kind of thing, robotic automation, we have done a few pilots. I mean, we did a very innovative thing on, we said quite often we found that when we go to any of the e-com marketplaces, our products are in a stock out situation. So we created a bot which checks, logs into different marketplaces and checks product availability and records it into a Excel and gives it internally so that people can see the status. Sometimes we don't get information from the B2B partners fast enough. So this was a very smart application, a very small application, which really helped us get visibility because we did not want that our product should be out of stock. So similar, multiple such initiatives we have done.
So Prachur, can you talk about how are you guys building a new age architecture? I also believe you should be utilizing automation a lot more than other industries.
There are 2 steps or two parts of the answer. The first one is the new age architecture, even pre-COVID, was being discussed a lot in oil and gas, because oil and gas is very heavy on data, right? I mean, the entire subsurface data and surface data is a significant amount, and it involves a lot of human interaction to make the right decisions, right, to move forward, which includes the people on ground or experts available in town or globally for that matter. So what did pre-COVID or post-COVID situation put is to start being able to collaborate a lot more without the need of physical data centers or workstations in one place, which is no longer feasible or not feasible in the scenario. So the architecture move towards cloud is probably one of the things that is expedited. It's not derived from COVID, but it's probably expedited that move to a cloud-based operations where anybody and everybody can collaborate without actually need to be physically in that room or that place to make decisions. So I think that's the new age architecture I would talk about, is specifically is cloud-based system where the entire data resides and different people anywhere, whether it's in India, at the site or globally, can have a look at the data and help to make the right decisions. Right? The second part is automation. Automation again is probably a long lead item in our space of work, because automation would require fundamental new design of hardware per se, right? But there's a lot of automation that has been done on the software side or how to manage data. But of course, the automation to reduce human intervention at the sites is potentially going to be expedited a lot more. There's a lot more discussion about it, but I still believe it's a long lead item. So there's a lot of work being done on preventive maintenance or preventing failures to happen. But I think that's something that is going to evolve very quickly compared to the pace it was doing before the pandemic hit us.
You said that your industry is very data heavy. So how are you utilizing this data, and what type of decisions are you making using this data? That's question one. And very quickly also, are there any new type of technologies that you are betting on?
I mean, the kind of data is pretty much, if you can say, there are many kinds of data. The first kind of data, which is probably the most used, is the subsurface data. It's basically what's below the ground. How do you make the right decisions to drill a well or to produce or to manage the production systems? So I think, and that goes in thousands and thousands of terabytes. And how do we use that to make the decision is to predict how the subsurface behaves on any intervention that happens, right? Whether it be drilling a well, whether it be production, or whether we inject a chemical to improve the recovery, right? So that's how we use data to make the right decisions, and this requires specific domain expertise, right? So that's how combining a domain expertise with the right data and to make the right decisions. And of course, it comes at the back of heavy analytics and potentially machine learning in future, right? I'm sorry, what was the second question you said?
What are some of the new technologies that you are betting on?
Again, there's quite a few new technologies. I mean, besides the hardware and the on-ground activity in terms of improving the recoveries, I think the new technology that we are very heavily betting on is in the digital space for this particular is more and more use of artificial intelligence and machine learning to interpret the data, which is typically done manually, where people are sitting in a room interpreting data and making decisions together. The idea would be to have some standard processes put in place where it eliminates the need of the human intervention in the first stage, and human intervention happens more at the decision-making stage and actually using the analytics of the data than doing the analytics part of it. So I think AI and ML would play a very important part in the coming future, and probably expedited by what's happened around us.
Great, Prachur. So I'll just move to Sachin. Sachin, can you just talk a little bit about what type of technologies are you guys using in your next generation infrastructure?
So we're just about, Vignesh, getting started to toy around with AI, ML. We're going to use them in our Salesforce automation, so we're able to provide point-in-time information to our salespeople depending on where they are, information that will provide them business insights. We're also using that within our dashboards that we've built. We're also using things like recommendations and so on and so forth that we're going to start looking at. Those are we're going to start to work with RPA. We're also looking at how can we incorporate NLP and so on and so forth. Obviously, visualization of apps, vernacularization of apps is also one of the things. So these are some of the things that we've started to look at, and we're going to look at as we move across. Again, I wanted to emphasize, just starting on our digital journey in Shell, and hopefully we're able to start seeing the results soon in couple of months. So focus is to start with sales and then go down the path and look at the entire value chain. That's where the focus is. Obviously, the start speed has been made a little difficult in the scenario that we have been, but the future is good.
Great, Sachin. So, Annie, can I just move on to you? What type of technologies are you betting on for the future of Mother Dairy?
So we are kind of looking at a hardware roadmap. We're looking at a hybrid cloud option. That is what we are working towards. We are trying to put in place some zero trust security. So from an infrastructure point of view, right, that is where our focus is. A lot of focus is on security and how to set up a zero trust security network kind of thing. Apart from that, when you look at it from a data perspective, right, what are the data points that we are working in? We are trying to look at more cost optimization initiatives. Where are the opportunities for cost optimization? How do we stabilize the environment, right? So there are cost pressures on the entire organization. Each and every one of us is looking at existing technologies and trying to work out the way ahead. What needs to be replaced? What needs to be retired? Where do we have better cost arbitrage coming from? So that is where we are focusing on right now. So no big IT spends, sweating the assets we have, but trying to work out a strategy so that by the end of the year or so, whenever we are ready to get into our next stage of deployment, we should be jumping ahead of the curve.